Building a business, any business, takes tools. And in today's world, those tools are typically software tools. Now, you might have a dozen different pieces of software that you use to run your business. You might have several dozen pieces of software that you use to run your business. But each tool has its own benefit and risks. There's three really different classifications for software in my mind. There are SaaS platforms that you might pay for monthly. There's lifetime deals, which maybe you come to me for recommendations on. And there's a third category you might be less familiar with. Those are self-hosted tools. Now, when I say that phrase, self-hosted, a lot of people are going to think of something like WordPress. And that is true. WordPress is a good example of self-hosted software. It's also open source software, meaning that it's free. Now, there's certainly expenses related to WordPress because a lot of the software you buy costs a lot of money, but even some self-hosted tools themselves are not free and they're not even open source, but you can still download the code, run it on a server, and then you get a lot of benefits that you don't get if you purchase a SaaS. Now, there's also some downsides because now it's on you to run a server and you've got to keep that software online, but it's actually a lot easier these days than maybe the experts are leading you to believe. Like, for example, I've been running my own email server for over a year at this point, and it's gone totally flawlessly. It can send, receive emails. I don't end up in the spam box. It's really not that bad. So that's why I'm announcing a brand new series today called Server Savant, and I'm going to teach you all about my favorite self-hosted tools. Some of them are going to be paid. A lot of them are going to be free and open source. Today, we're going to look at one that kind of falls in the middle. Now, this is once.com. You've probably heard of the creator of once.com, 37 Signals. They make tools like Basecamp and Heymail. With once.com, 37 Signals is taking a different approach. Instead of paying a monthly fee like you do for Hey or Basecamp, you simply download the software. Maybe you have to pay for it, maybe you don't, and then you get to run it on your own server for as long as you want. At which point, I guess they'll change their name to Twice. Now, Once started off with Campfire, which is their Slack replacement, and this tool is definitely not free. You can see here it is $300, but a lot of people really seem to like it. They've done several updates since the initial launch, and yeah, it looks like a great tool. I actually use another self-hosted platform for group chat for our company, and I've been doing that since before Campfire was even released. I'm interested to try Campfire, but today I want to tell you all about Writebook. Writebook is the second Once tool to be released, and this one is completely free. That's right, all you need to run Writebook is a server, a domain, and this video, because I'm going to show you exactly how to get up and running, and then we'll even go through the tool and show you how it works. So before we get right into the installation, let me at least tell you what Writebook does. So it says here, instantly publish your own books on the web for free, no publisher required. And as I scroll through the different sections of the sales page here, well, it's not a sales page, the free page here, you're going to see a little bit of what Writebook can do. I've already used this platform and it is really, really nice. I think everybody out there could manage to install and use Writebook. Once you get it going, it feels just like any other SaaS you might pay for monthly, and there really is no maintenance or anything you need to worry about on the back end. So let's get going. I'm going to click right over here to get my copy of Writebook, and we are going to spin up a server, launch our domain, and everything is going to be working in just a few moments. After you check out for Writebook, remember it's free. It's just basically filling out a form. You're going to receive an email that looks like this. It's got your step-by-step directions to get things set up and rocking. So it says we'll need a domain name, a server, and some basic technical know-how. Don't worry about that. I got you covered. So step one is to pick a machine to host Writebook. They recommend either DigitalOcean or Hetzner. These are both great options. I've been using Hetzner a lot lately, and I really like it. It's super affordable, and you get a lot of bang for your buck in terms of the same price that you might pay on Hetzner is going to be a lot beefier a server, meaning that it's got faster specs and more RAM than you might get on another platform like DigitalOcean, Vultr, or Linode. Those are all great hosts, by the way. If you've got one that you like, definitely stick with that. I'm going to be using Hetzner Cloud throughout this video, so if you want to follow along with me directly, I'll have a link in the description so you can get signed up. On top of a server, you will also need a domain. Now, don't worry, if you already have a website, you can use a subdomain, which basically means you're going to put a word in front of your regular domain. So my domain is clientamp.com. If I wanted to run Writebook on writebook.clientamp.com or books.clientamp.com, I could certainly do that. I don't need to buy anything extra for that. You get unlimited subdomains, but if you don't have a website at all and you're looking to just get into this for the very first time, head over to Namecheap, Porkbun, Hover, any of those domain platforms, grab yourself a domain, and then we're gonna get right into the fun. I mean, domains are really cheap. You can get a .com for $6.49. The real challenge is finding one that you want because they're all taken. But try any of the other TLDs and you can probably find something you like. TLD means top level domain, by the way. So if you want something like .io, .ai, you can find those. They'll vary in costs. I think AI is like $120 a year. So just brace for impact. All right, so go ahead and get signed up for Hetzner and you'll see a screen that looks like this. Now, I do want you to be aware that Hetzner is a little bit cautious with their limits. So you might need to verify your identity or request increase. They basically are going to slowly warm you up into using their platform. The best way to do this is just be a good customer, stick with them for several months, and then you will gain their trust. But if you go right in and try to spin up an email server and send some spam or do other crazy things, well, Hetzner's not going to like that, and you might not get to stick around too long. So just be a good citizen, follow along with his video, and everything will be just fine. All right, so I'm over here in servers, and I'm simply going to add a new server here. I can choose a location. I'm going to stick in the US. Let's go with Hillsboro. Now, most of the other settings here are going to be just fine. Ubuntu is going to work out great. I want to choose a dedicated CPU. This base level plan is going to be plenty of power. It's going to be about 12 euros per month. If you want to go with something a little bit cheaper, you can switch over to a shared vCPU. Writebook's requirements are for 2 gigs of RAM and 1 CPU as the absolute minimum. So with this plan over here, I'm paying under 4 euros a month, and I'm going to get 2 CPUs and 2 gigabytes of RAM. So it kind of just depends here on what your intentions are. If you're just messing around and learning about self-hosted software, you can certainly get started with the cheapest plan and it'll work just fine. If you want to scale this thing up, I would recommend starting from the beginning with a dedicated vCPU. So if you think you're going to have thousands of people reading your books, just start over here. It'll make your life a lot easier. You don't have to worry about migrating later on. Just start with a dedicated CPU, and then you'll be able to scale up as high as you ever need to go, which, trust me, it's not going to be that high. You're going to go up to this one maximum. Once you decide on the plan that's right for you, go ahead and scroll through the rest of the page. You can look at the other settings, but the defaults are going to be just fine. If you already know about things like SSH keys, you can set them up right here. That's fine. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. We're going to learn about this stuff over the course of this series. For now, we're not even going to worry about SSH keys. They do have backups as an option. So if you're worried about backing up your data, you can turn that on. But like I said, all of the defaults here are just fine for now. Maybe down at the bottom, you just want to give your server a name, like I'll just call this Writebook YT for YouTube. And let's go ahead and hit create and buy now. So there we go. I have purchased the server and I also get an IP address. This is important. I'm going to click right on it to copy it. Now, the next step is to get into your DNS Manager. If your main website is on a shared hosting platform, it could be in the zone editor. If you bought your domain name on something like GoDaddy or Namecheap, you can log in there. Hopefully, you know where your DNS settings are. I can't really help you with that through YouTube, but once you find them, all we got to do is add in a single entry. Pretty easy to do. Just click Add Record. We want an A record. If you're using the root domain, like you bought a domain specifically for Writebook, you can go ahead and leave this as the @ symbol or just blank if your DNS settings lets you do that. For me, I'm going to be using the subdomain technique we talked about earlier. And I'm just going to call this books.clientamp.com. Then in the next section here, I'm going to paste in that IP address that I just copied from Hetzner. I'll turn off the proxy status for Cloudflare. If you're not using Cloudflare, ignore that step. Now I'm ready to proceed. I'll go down to the save button and my DNS entry has been made. All of that tech stuff is done. We just have one more thing, and that's to actually install Writebook itself. So if you're a little confused with what's happened so far, we rented a server from Hetzner. They gave us basically like the phone number for that server. It's called an IP address. Then we went over to our DNS settings, which is kind of like the directory or the phone book. And we just told it where we want our domain to point to, which computer is connected up to our domain. So those two things are already working. All that's left is to install the software on our server. To do that, we're going to go ahead and get logged into that computer. I'm going to click on the server name right here, and then I'm going to go over to Actions and Console. This is how I can connect to my new hosted computer on the web. Now, in order to get access to this computer, I need to log in. Lucky for me, I got this email when I signed up for my server. It's got my username and password right inside of it. So my username is root, and next I need to enter in my password. Now here is where you might get stuck because you're probably used to just copying and pasting something like this. Unfortunately, inside of a console like this, copy and paste is just not going to work. So what you need to do is actually type it out the old-fashioned way. Now, the bothersome thing about this is you get literally no feedback as you're typing. It's just a completely blank screen. I think I've got it in here, so I'm going to go ahead and hit return. And it says I need to change my password. That's actually good news. It means that I typed in the password correctly. Now I've got to do it again because I have to change my password and they ask for the current password. So just go with it. This is only one time you need to do this, but also remember this password because if you ever need to log in again, this is the one. Now I highly recommend saving this password inside of a password manager or write it down on a sticky note. I don't really care. Just do not lose this password or you will be very sad. But if you are successful, you will see a screen that looks like this, which means you are now logged into your newly rented computer. The next thing to do at this stage of the game is to open up that email that you received from Writebook earlier on in this video. We've already done steps 1, 2, and 3 in this email. The last thing to do is just type this command right here over in our console, and we will be off and running. Now, don't type my command, type the command in the email that you receive. This is going to be tied to your domain, and this one won't work for you because it's for mine. So check that email. There's no reason to copy mine. It's a free tool. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Dave, should I know what the heck this means? No, don't worry about it. Just copy it. It's going to work just fine. The next thing that's going to happen is it's going to run some software called Docker. It's going to install the software. It's going to give you an SSL certificate so you get the padlock. Everything's going to be taken care of for you. The only thing you'll need to do is enter in your domain name. All right, I am now running the command and it says installing the once command. And here's the question, which domain would I like to use? Well, I chose books.clientamp.com. Let's go ahead and hit return. Testing the network might take a minute. Preparing, downloading, and starting. All right, that's it. It says you're all set. Writebook will automatically install updates around 5 a.m. each day. You can change this with once auto update. So if 5 a.m. is a bad time for you, maybe that's a popular time for people to be reading your books, you can change that up. But otherwise, we can go ahead and log into our new self-hosted tool. All right, so let's go ahead and give this a shot. Let's hit the return key and load this thing up. Right away, it feels like a SaaS, very, very fast because you know what? I'm the only user online right now. I get all of the CPU cycles. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my account set up here. I've got my name, my email address, and my password. The 37 Signal guys are so good at UI. They've got these nice little globes over here. So if you're not sure what to do, you can click on it and it shows the instructions in many different languages here. I love this. And there we go. We are now inside of Writebook. Now they've actually given us the manual how to use Writebook right inside of Writebook. So you can actually get a feel for what a book is going to look like. Let's check this out first, and then we can move into actually creating our own book and seeing what that process is like. So I'm going to open this up right here. I'll just click on it. So here's the cover of the book over here. And then on the other side of the screen, I have the contents of the book. Each one of these is an individual page. Now I'm in this grid view, but if I wanted to view it in more of a traditional table of contents, I could look at it in list view, and it gives me actually a decent amount of information. So I can see how many words are in each chapter. I can see where I'm at right now. Like I opened up this page and it's got a little bookmark next to it. Now I'm logged in as the administrator right now, so I can actually open this book and just start editing it if I wanted to, but I could also move the pages around. Like if I click this little button right here, I get little handles to move the different pages around and reorder things very, very easily. If I was in the grid view, it's even better in my opinion, because you get this very visual representation of exactly what's happening. And this button right over here is to remove pages. So maybe I don't want to have the appendix. Well, I can click right here. It's going to prompt me to confirm that I want to do so, but I could easily delete that page. I'm going to leave it in case I need it. With both of these tools, you just click on it once to turn it on, and then you can make your changes. When you're all done, click on it again and it goes away. Let's go ahead and open up a page so we can see what it looks like. So I'm going to do this second page here, creating your book, and I can see what the text looks like. There are links built in here. And right now I'm in viewing mode. Now, regular people that are just reading your book, of course, cannot make all of these edits. But if I toggle it over to the pen mode, well, it's a full-on editor. It uses Markdown, so you can just, if you're writing with a little help of ChatGPT or Claude, you can paste right in. The language will be accepted. Or I actually really enjoy writing in Markdown. I think I've gotten a lot more exposure to it just from using AI over the last year and a half or so. But yeah, it's just a very, very enjoyable way to write. You can very easily add headings. That would be a, kind of a subheading to the H2 over here. But, if you're not interested in learning Markdown, or maybe you just forget some of the syntax sometime, there's little helpers up here. So if I want to do a bulleted list, I can, it's the dashes for the bulleted list. Or maybe I want to do numbers. I can simply swap it out right there. And now I have a bulleted list. Yeah, we can add images, just upload one right here. It's going to display in Markdown. That's what an image looks like in Markdown. So if you want to see what it looks like to users, just pop over to the other view, and there it is. There's a full screen mode over here, but otherwise the editor is extremely easy to get used to. There's different types of pages too. We've been looking at text pages, which are these right here, but there's also image pages. So if you're interested in doing things like comic books, Writebook is actually a decent solution for this. So I just click to add a picture page. So I'm just going to call this my picture page. I'll hit the green check mark. Now, if I click on this, I'll go into the same mode we saw before. Now, there's no content here, so I'm going to switch over to the editing mode, and I can just upload a picture. Maybe some delicious tacos. I'll give it a caption, and then let's pop back over into the viewing mode. And there we go. We've got our delicious tacos. The third type of page you can create is basically like a title page. Maybe you have multiple sections of your book, and you want to have different titles throughout. Well, add this page in right here, and you can see here I've got a new section. I'll call this my section page, and maybe I'll switch over to the list view here, and I'll turn on my handlebars, and I'll move this up. How about right about there? We'll exit out. And now if I open up this page, you can see exactly what it looks like. This is the editing page. I can make it dark or light, but if I wanted to see what it looks like to a user, I'll toggle over to the I mode, and it's just a simple little section to indicate the next part of the book. Now, actually reading through a Writebook is very, very intuitive. You can use the arrow keys to go to the previous page or the next page. You can move up and down with the up and down arrow keys. So really, you could go through the entire book here without ever needing to grab your mouse if you didn't want to. So just kind of thumbing through it, like there's a lot of very nice images here, very clear on what to do. Here's some installation directions if you are using DigitalOcean. And then on the next page, there are installation directions for using Hetzner. And here are my beautiful tacos. I mean, delicious tacos. All right, so that's most of the major functionality of Writebook. I bet you forgot we're even using a self-hosted tool. See, not all self-hosted things need to be annoying and complex, like maybe WordPress can sometimes be. You can do this, it's not that hard. All right, let's go ahead and create our very own book, see what that process is like. There's some other things we can do, like invite other users or make these books public so people can read and enjoy them. Let's see how this all functions. I'm going to click right over here to create my own book. All right, I've given my book a title, Dave's Excellent Adventure, subtitle, The Wild Times of an LTD Addict, and it is by myself, Dave Swift. I can choose one of these background colors here if I'd like, or I can upload an image right here. I'm going to go ahead and upload a photo. There we go. It's not in the right format, but Writebook handled it perfectly. So you'd probably want to, have a designer design your book and make it the right aspect ratio. For me, here is mine. It looks pretty good. Now I've got just one other option down here. Is this book going to be for everyone or is it private? The idea here could be that you're going to create your internal documentation in Writebook, make it private, invite people to Writebook, and they could check it out. Your employees can read the documentation. This could be a really great way to set up your SOPs. Or if you want to sell access to your books, you could also make it private. Now, I want to be clear, Writebook does not have any sort of e-commerce functionality built in, so you'd have to do that on your own. But the good news is you can definitely do that. If you're a developer, there's code available for Writebook. Yeah, you remember that email received? Well, if you go all the way down to the bottom, it says you can download a zip file with the complete source code. Go ahead and grab it. You can dig in, modify whatever you want, or build a webhook and connect up Stripe, I'm sure there are endless possibilities to accept payments for books. But yeah, to be totally frank, when you're just getting started with self-publishing, you're probably not selling hundreds of thousands of copies of your book, maybe a few a day, and then you could just do this all manually. Set your book to private and then add users, which is something we're going to look at very shortly. But first, let me finish the completion of setting up this book. So what we're seeing here is that the book is currently marked private, and the only user that has access is me because I'm the only user on the platform. So we'll go ahead and move to the next step. And here we are back where we were before, this time with our very own book. I can add in a page right here, maybe a picture, maybe a section. Just start loading up your pages and begin composing. If later you decide that you want to make your book public, go ahead and toggle that switch and you get a URL right here for sharing. If you want to add a QR code, click away. There is a QR code built right in. This link right here copies the URL to your clipboard. This link opens up the share sheet, and this link lets you change the slug. So if you don't want to have it be Dave-S's Excellent Adventure, I could just do Dave's Excellent Adventure, and that is a little bit easier to remember. Now, if you ever need to update your book cover, just go over here to the gear icon, and here are all of the settings we saw before. I could remove my photo, choose one of their defaults, or just upload a new photo because honestly, this one isn't going to work. All right, the last thing to cover is how the user system works. To add a new user to Writebook, just click on the gear icon up here and you can share your Writebook with more people. So when you copy this link, it's actually going to allow someone to sign up as a user on Writebook. So protect this, and if people are signing up without your permission, just click this little button over here. It'll kind of respin the code and then the old one will no longer work. All right, let's go ahead and try to add another user. I've got an incognito window. You can see it's very similar to when we initially signed up, but this time I'm going to make somebody up. All right, there we go. I've got my credentials. I'm going to go ahead and log in, and they can see all of the books by default because I've not made them exclusive to any particular user. So jumping back into my admin account, I'm going to go back out. I'll open up my Excellent Adventure book. I'm going to make this private. And even though it's private, I don't want anyone else to see it. So if I click on the gear icon, I can now see a list of my users and whether or not they can edit it or just view it. So you know what? I'm okay. I'm changing my tune a little bit. I think John can view it, but you know what? I don't want him to edit it. I could toggle that on or off. Currently, in this state, he cannot edit the book. So it's a pretty simple user system, but it's very, very efficient. I like how it works. The 37 Signal guys have been doing software a long time. They definitely know what is up. Now, if you decide that Writebook is just too much for you to handle and you want to add in another administrator, you can do that too. Just go back to your main screen, click on the gear icon, and then you can make another user an admin by just clicking on that button right there. Now they have access. That's what the crown does. All right, that was the first episode of Server Savant. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Maybe you got a tool set up. That would make my day. Leave me a comment down below and let me know if you followed along and were able to get Writebook running successfully. My name is Dave Swift. If you're into this kind of stuff, maybe you like AppSumo LTDs, get subscribed to this channel. I got a lot more content coming, even starting tomorrow. I'll see you in the next video.